Welcome to another deep dive today. We're going to be tackling generative AI. Generative AI. It's exciting stuff, right? I mean, the potential is huge, but I think there is also a little bit of apprehension out there.
Yeah, definitely.
What could go wrong? This article, Mitigar los riesgos de GenAI, that we're diving into today, really digs into that. And it seems like companies are leaning on the usual suspects when it comes to risk management. Setting strict policies and encouraging individual critical thinking.
Yeah, those make sense on the surface. I think the article makes a really compelling argument, though, that those measures alone might be falling a little short, especially given just how quickly AI is evolving.
Yeah,
What we consider safe today could be a totally different story tomorrow.
right.
And then you have the whole issue of AI hallucinations, where the AI generates output that is totally convincing.
Oh, hold on. Back up for a second. AI hallucinations. Could you break that down for me? And for anyone listening who maybe isn't familiar with the term.
Sure. So AI hallucinations are when an AI model generates information that's just not grounded in reality.
Huh.
This could be anything from, made up data points to totally fabricated historical events, or even just subtle inaccuracies that are hard to detect.
Okay.
It's kind of like, think of it as the AI equivalent of confidently stating something that's just completely false.
Okay.
And because these models can be so convincing, it's really easy to just take their output at face value. And this is especially tricky, when you're dealing with complex topics where individuals might not have the expertise to be able to spot those inaccuracies.
Yeah, that's a little unsettling. So if the traditional policies and individual scrutiny are not enough to deal with this rapid evolution of these hallucinations, what's the article suggest? What are we missing here?
That's where team judgment comes in. The article proposes that as this kind of crucial third layer of risk mitigation. And it's actually a concept that's already been proven, effective in other high-stakes fields. So you think about aviation, healthcare, nuclear energy. These sectors have relied on team judgment to prevent catastrophic errors for a long time.
Team judgment. I like the sound of that. So it's not just one person double-checking. It's more like a whole team approach.
Exactly.
I can see how that would be much more robust.
Yeah.
Right? But how does this actually work in practice? What does this team judgment look like when it's happening?
So the article breaks it down into three key elements: collective judgment, domain judgment, and reflective judgment.
All right, let's unpack those one by one.
Okay.
What's collective judgment all about?
So collective judgment, that's the foundation. It's about having teams actively discuss AI outputs together. So not just individually reviewing in silos, but they're coming together, they're checking for inconsistencies, for potential biases, and essentially acting as each other's sounding board. Imagine a team, they're tasked with drafting a report, maybe on global supply chain trends, and they're using AI to help them.
Okay.
And the AI generates this seemingly comprehensive report, but it includes a case study about, let's say, a specific country's innovative logistics system.
Sounds pretty standard. But I feel like there's a but coming.
You're right. Here's the catch. That case study is completely fabricated.
What?
The AI hallucinated it.
Oh, wow.
If each team member was working independently, they might not even question it. But in a collective judgment scenario, someone on the team with expertise in that region might flag it. They might say, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. I've never even heard of this system, and it doesn't really align with that country's typical regulations.
Gotcha. So that collective scrutiny acts as a safety net, catches those errors that might have just slipped past an individual, right?
Yeah.
Multiple perspectives are key here, especially when we might be predisposed to just trust the AI.
For sure.
What about the next layer? Domain judgment, what does that entail?
So domain judgment kicks in when the team realizes they need to consult with a subject matter expert. It's acknowledging that, hey, even with all of our combined knowledge, sometimes you just need a specialist to weigh in.
So in that supply chain example, instead of just assuming the AI got it right, the team would then reach out to an expert on that specific country's logistics industry.
Exactly.
And that expert could confirm or debunk the AI's fabricated case study. It's a brilliant way to actually leverage existing human expertise. Make sure that the AI's output is actually reliable.
Yeah, you're leveraging those resources.
Yeah. What about the third layer, reflective judgment? What's that all about?
So reflective judgment, this focuses on continuous learning and improvement. It's a practice of regularly sharing experiences, both good and bad. Teams discuss what worked, what didn't, and how to avoid similar pitfalls in the future.
So turning individual lessons into collective wisdom.
Exactly.
Creating sort of like an AI safety playbook for the entire organization.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be really crucial in a field as dynamic as AI.
Absolutely.
What would that look like for our hypothetical supply chain team?
So they might hold a workshop after discovering that AI hallucination. They walk their colleagues through how they identify the error and what red flags to kind of watch out for. So that way the entire organization can benefit from that one team's experience.
Okay, so let me summarize just to make sure I'm following. So we've got these three layers of team judgment: collective, domain, and reflective. They work together to create this safety net, right? Ensuring that we're not just blindly following the AI, but actually applying human intelligence at each stage.
Exactly. It's about fostering a culture of really thoughtful and collaborative AI use.
And the best part is this isn't just some abstract theory. The article even uses the example of Ferrari.
Oh.
Apparently, their engineering teams use team judgment to validate AI insights when they're designing, those insanely complex engines and systems.
Which makes sense, right? When you have these high-performance vehicles, it just goes to show that this concept can be applied even in the most cutting-edge, technologically driven fields. It's not about pitting humans against machines. It's about augmenting human expertise with the power of AI.
So now I know our listeners are probably thinking, okay, this is fascinating, but how do I actually implement this within my team or company? Let's dive into that next, shall we?
Cool. Let's get practical.
Perfect. Stay tuned, everyone, because we're about to get into the nuts and bolts of making this team judgment a reality.
Welcome back to our deep dive on generative AI and this whole concept of team judgment. Before we jump into those practical tips, I think it's worth zooming out for a second.
Okay.
We often hear these kind of doomsday predictions about AI, right? Like it's going to replace all the human jobs.
Yeah.
Human skills will become obsolete. But I think this article and this idea of team judgment, it paints a much more, I think, optimistic picture.
What's the alternative perspective?
So instead of looking at AI as this threat, what if we looked at it as an opportunity to actually elevate human capabilities?
Yeah.
Team judgment is a perfect example of that. It's about recognizing that humans and AI each bring these unique strengths to the table.
Yeah.
And when we combine them strategically, that's when we can achieve some truly remarkable things. It's not human versus machine. It's
Right.
human and machine.
So instead of fearing that we're going to be replaced, we should be focusing on how to collaborate effectively with AI,
Absolutely.
leveraging its strengths while still retaining that human oversight and control.
Exactly. It's about creating the synergistic relationship where AI augments human intelligence rather than replacing it.
Give me an example. How might this play out in the real world?
Okay. So let's imagine a team of architects. They're using AI to design a new skyscraper. The AI could super quickly generate all these different design options.
Right.
Factor in structural requirements, energy efficiency, even aesthetics. But it's the human architects who would then evaluate those options. Considering factors, the AI might not fully grasp.
Like the building's cultural context,
Exactly.
the needs of the people who are actually going to be using it,
Yeah.
the overall aesthetic vision for the project. So the AI is like this super-powered brainstorming partner.
Exactly.
But the humans are still the ones steering the ship, making those final calls.
Exactly. It's that beautiful interplay between artificial and human intelligence. That's what unlocks the true innovation. And it brings us to another really crucial point that I think often gets overlooked.
Yeah.
Team judgment isn't just about mitigating risk. It's also about unlocking opportunity.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So, if we're constantly worried about the AI going off the rails, making mistakes, we're going to stifle its potential. But if we have these layers of team judgment in place, we can be more daring, more experimental, more ambitious in how we actually use AI.
So it's about having that safety net. You know that even if the AI throws a curveball, the team is there to catch it. And you can even turn it into a learning opportunity.
Exactly.
It's almost like it gives us the freedom to explore, to push the boundaries of what's possible.
It's about embracing the unknown, not fearing it. And that, I think, is where the true magic of AI lies.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and get into the practicalities. You've sold me on team judgment. I'm on board.
Yeah.
But how do we actually build this culture of thoughtful AI use? Where do we even begin?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And I get it. Some listeners might be thinking, okay, that's great in theory, but my workplace isn't exactly known for its collaborative spirit.
Oh, that's a fair point.
Right. So I would say start small. Focus on building those collaborative muscles gradually. Instead of trying to overhaul, the entire company culture overnight, which, let's be real, that's probably not going to happen.
Right.
Start with a pilot project.
Okay, so pick a team that's already open to experimenting. Maybe one that's already working with AI.
Exactly.
Use that as a testing ground.
Yeah. Provide them with the resources, the support they need. That means clear communication from leadership,
Right.
dedicated time for them to actually collaborate,
Yeah.
and a willingness to embrace this fail fast, learn faster mentality.
Because mistakes are going to happen,
Of course.
especially in a field as complex as this.
Absolutely. And this is where that reflective judgment piece comes in.
Yeah.
Encourage teams to document their experiences,
Okay.
the good, the bad. Share those learnings with the rest of the organization.
So it's not taboo to admit when something goes wrong.
Exactly.
It's actually an opportunity for growth.
It's all about learning.
We're not just throwing technology at a problem. We're actually thinking, critically, collaborating, and continuously learning.
That's it. And once you start seeing those small successes, those tangible examples of how team judgment actually leads to better outcomes, then you can gradually start to expand the approach to other teams, other departments.
It's like a ripple effect.
Exactly.
I love that. So listeners, if you're inspired by this idea but feeling a little bit overwhelmed,
Yeah,
remember, start small. Build that trust. Celebrate the small wins.
absolutely. Now, let's talk about making this happen. We've covered the what and the why of team judgment. Let's get into the how.
Okay, let's get down to brass tacks.
What are some concrete steps that people, teams can actually take to make these principles a reality in their day-to-day work?
Yeah, we all love a good action plan. So where do we start?
I'd say the foundation of any kind of effective team judgment, really any collaboration, it's communication.
Communication. Sounds so simple, yet we all know that it can be surprisingly tricky.
Oh, absolutely. And when it comes to team judgment and AI, communication needs to be extra intentional,
Okay.
structured, and really focused on fostering this shared understanding, not just of what the AI can do, but also its limitations.
So having open and honest conversations
Yes.
about how are we using this? What are we trying to achieve? What are the potential risks?
Exactly. And it's not just about keeping everyone in the loop. It's about encouraging healthy debate, encouraging diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
And this communication should be happening at all levels of the organization.
Okay.
Leaders need to set the tone, make it very clear. This is our vision for AI. Team judgment is a core value here.
And then middle managers need to make space for those conversations within their teams.
Absolutely.
Make sure that everyone feels safe to speak up, share their expertise, raise any concerns.
And then, of course, individual team members need to be proactive. Communicating their observations, any insights, potential red flags they see, it's a collective responsibility.
So it's creating that culture where everyone feels empowered to contribute, no matter what their role is.
Exactly. And to actually facilitate those conversations, it's really helpful to establish clear communication channels and protocols.
So you could create like a dedicated Slack channel for any AI-related discussions.
Yeah,
Or maybe incorporate a quick little AI check-in into your regular team meetings.
exactly. Make those conversations a regular part of the workflow, not just something you do when a problem comes up. And another critical aspect, I think, alongside communication, is documentation.
Documentation. That makes sense, especially in the context of reflective judgment.
Absolutely.
If we want to learn from what we've done, we need to actually capture it.
You got it. Documentation is essential for building that institutional memory, making sure we're constantly learning and improving as an organization.
So it's not just about documenting the final outcome.
Right.
It's about the process. What challenges did we face? What decisions did we make? Why did we make them?
And ideally, this documentation is accessible to everyone, not just siloed within specific teams or departments.
So like a shared wiki, a
Exactly.
knowledge base where anyone can search, contribute, learn from each other.
Exactly. And remember, documentation doesn't have to be this dry, text-heavy report.
Okay.
It can incorporate visuals, flowcharts, screenshots, even video recordings of team discussions.
Sometimes a visual is so much more effective.
Absolutely. It's about finding what works, right,
Yeah.
to capture and share that knowledge.
Okay, so we've got communication, we've got documentation. What else is important here?
Well, in addition to communication and documentation, which are very much those human elements,
Right.
we can't forget about the technological infrastructure that needs to support these processes. After all, we are talking about AI.
Makes sense. What kind of infrastructure are we talking about?
It's about having the right tools, the platforms, the systems in place to actually enable that seamless collaboration, information sharing, and collective decision-making.
So project management tools.
Yeah.
collaborative brainstorming platforms,
For sure.
knowledge management systems to organize and share all those insights.
You got it. And the key here is to choose tools that are intuitive, user-friendly, and they really need to integrate well with your existing workflows.
Because we don't want the technology to become a barrier.
Exactly. And it's not just about the tools themselves, it's about how we use them.
So clear guidelines,
Yeah.
naming conventions for files,
Uh-huh.
using tags to organize information,
Absolutely.
setting up reminders to keep documents updated.
It's about creating a system that actually supports these practices, not just throwing tech at the problem and hoping for the best.
Right. Okay, I'm seeing how it all fits together. But there's one piece we haven't talked about, that domain judgment aspect, where we need to bring in those subject matter experts.
Yeah.
How do we make sure we have access to the right expertise at the right time?
Access to expertise, the lifeblood of domain judgment. You know, it's one thing to know you need an expert. It's a whole other thing to actually find that expert, get them involved when you need them.
Especially in these big organizations, expertise can be siloed,
Yeah.
can be tough to connect the dots.
This is where that robust strategy for knowledge management and expert identification is essential.
So it's not just having a list of names.
Right.
It's about knowing who knows what,
Yeah.
how to reach them, how to get them involved.
Exactly. And there are a few ways to do that. One is to create expert maps or profiles.
Like internal directories where you can search for people
Yeah.
based on what they know.
Exactly.
Okay.
These profiles can outline, what are their specializations, their experience, their availability, how do they prefer to be contacted, all those details.
So teams can easily find them. That's great. What other approaches?
Another is to establish communities of practice or these internal networks.
Okay.
This allows experts with shared interests to connect, share knowledge, stay up to date.
So it's not just about finding them when you need them. It's about fostering that ongoing knowledge sharing.
Exactly. It helps break down silos and it makes sure that expertise is flowing throughout the organization.
I've even heard of some companies using AI itself to help with expert identification.
That's right. AI-powered tools that can analyze project documents, team conversations, and suggest relevant experts based on what's being discussed.
So if a team is working on, say, supply chain logistics in a particular region, the AI could recommend experts on that topic from within the company.
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing.
It can be really helpful for those highly specialized, really technical projects where finding the right expert is like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
It's all about removing barriers and making sure teams have the support they need to make those informed, confident decisions.
So to sum it up, when we talk about building the infrastructure for team judgment, it's not just about the technology.
Yeah.
It's about creating a system that empowers people to connect, collaborate, and share their knowledge.
Absolutely. And when you get that right, the possibilities for human AI collaboration they're limitless.
Yeah, this conversation has really shifted my perspective
Hmm.
from being a little bit apprehensive to being genuinely excited.
Me too. It's nice to focus on the positive.
It is. But before we get too carried away, let's recap what we've talked about today.
Sounds good.
We started by acknowledging the potential of generative AI, but also those risks.
Yeah.
We then explored how traditional approaches like policies, individual judgment, might not be enough.
Especially with those AI hallucinations.
Yeah, and that led us to team judgment, this third layer that helps us make thoughtful, informed decisions.
And we dug deeper into those three core components: collective judgment, domain judgment, and reflective judgment.
And in this part of the episode, we got practical, talking about building a culture of team judgment.
By focusing on communication, documentation, and the right infrastructure.
And throughout our conversation, we emphasize that team judgment isn't just about mitigating risks, it's about unlocking opportunities.
Empowering human AI collaboration.
Creating a future of work where humans and AI work together to achieve some really amazing things.
Absolutely.
So listeners, as we wrap up this second part, we want to leave you with this challenge.
How can you start incorporating these principles into your own work?
What steps can you take, no matter how small, to start fostering a more collaborative, thoughtful approach to AI within your team?
Take a moment to reflect on that, and we'll be back soon with the final part of this episode, where we'll explore the broader implications of team judgment and how it can help us shape a future where AI truly elevates human potential.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into team judgment and all things generative AI. We've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we?
We have, from those core principles to picturing it in action. It feels like we've given our listeners a real toolkit.
What's hitting home for me now is that this is bigger than just risk management.
Yeah.
It's like team judgment is unlocking a new way of working, a new way of thinking, really, essential for any tough problem, not just AI stuff.
Totally agree. It's about that continuous learning, adapting, tapping into the group's smarts. Those are valuable everywhere, not just with this one tech.
It's like we're moving past that lone genius idea, and it's all about collaborative genius now.
Yeah.
The big wins come when different views clash, assumptions get questioned, we build on each other.
Exactly. And our world's only getting more complex, more connected, so that skill of working together well, it's more valuable than ever. Being brilliant solo isn't enough anymore. We got to be brilliant as a team.
It's like team judgment is the cure for info overload and echo chambers. It makes us slow down, truly listen, and think critically about all the stuff thrown at us.
Love that analogy. It's about intellectual humility. None of us have all the answers, but together we can handle complexity and make more solid decisions.
And this has huge implications for leadership, right? It's not enough to be the all-knowing boss at the top anymore. You got to create the space for team judgment to work.
You're right on. Leaders are shifting from command and control to cultivate and empower. Psychological safety, real talk, genuinely valuing different views.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do.
It's a culture where people are cool with speaking up, challenging things, even admitting when they're wrong, because we all mess up, especially in a field as fast-moving as AI. It's how we learn from those mess-ups that matters.
And there's where that reflective judgment is key. It's that feedback loop, always learning, improving. Celebrate the aha moments, sure, but own the oops moments too and use them to grow.
Which brings up a question I've been thinking about. How do we measure success with team judgment? It's not always about easy numbers like we're more productive or made fewer errors. It's deeper than that, right?
For sure. We got to look past just the numbers and check those subtler things. How are the conversations? The trust level? Are people willing to try stuff and learn from setbacks?
Noticing those shifts in the team. People more engaged, sharing more, confident in tackling things as a group.
And track the near misses too. Times when a mistake almost happened, but the team caught it because they were thinking together. Those tell you a lot about how valuable this approach is.
It's like weaving this invisible safety net, one conversation, one challenge, one reflection at a time, and it gets stronger, more able to catch us if we fall.
Beautifully put. That's the transformative power here. It's not just a technique, it's a whole philosophy. Changing how we work, learn, handle a world that's always changing.
As we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with this. Team judgment is a journey, not a finish line. Weave those ideas of collaborating, critical thinking, always learning into everything you do.
Nurture it in yourself, your team, your whole organization, because at the end of the day, it's not just about AI, it's about building a better future together.
One where human smarts and artificial smarts work in harmony to create something truly amazing. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep those conversations going, those minds open, and collaborate, collaborate, collaborate.